Late at night in Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, a mother hums softly over a cradle, while war dispatches deciding the fate of Europe lie on her desk. Maria Theresa of Austria, the only female ruler in the history of the Habsburg dynasty, and also the mother of 16 children. Tonight, let us push open that heavy palace gate and listen to her whispers between iron will and tenderness. This story, which needs no great effort to remember, will accompany you into the deepest of sleeps. If a crown was destined to crush delicate shoulders, Maria Theresa of Austria chose to forge it into the hardest armor. She was once seen as prey by every monarch in Europe, yet finally became a lioness defending her lands. When political calculation clashed violently with maternal instinct, her life turned into a long farewell. By the softly flickering fire, step into the real and lonely inner world of this great woman. Some call Maria Theresa of Austria the mother-in-law of Europe, yet few know the heartbreak she paid for that title. She saved the empire on the battlefield, yet lost the right to be an ordinary mother in the nursery. From bright gowns to black mourning clothes for the rest of her life, she wrote the last glory of the Habsburgs with 40 years of restraint. This is a bedtime whisper of choice and sacrifice, here to accompany you gently tonight. Imagine Vienna in the 18th century, a young woman in the postpartum period holding her month-old baby in her arms. Outside her window, the fiercest armies in Europe closed in on her borders from all sides, ready to carve up her fragmented territory. In the eyes of those male monarchs, she was no ruler, she was meat for the taking, a weak woman who only inherited the throne because she had no brothers. This woman, at her most vulnerable moment in life, was Maria Theresa of Austria. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us enter her real life through a story you do not have to struggle to remember. Her life was a long paradox. She was the only female ruler of the Habsburg dynasty, yet won respect in the most patriarchal era. She gave birth to 16 children, yet had to send them one by one to the cold altar of politics. She was a lioness at the height of power, yet also a widow who wore only black for the rest of her days, sitting alone in loneliness. Let us slow down and listen to the breaths that belonged to her, hidden behind luxurious silk and heavy war reports. When Maria Theresa was 23, her father Charles VI died suddenly, leaving her an empire with an empty treasury and a disorganized army. Worse still, she had received no education in governance at all. Her father had always assumed he would have a son, so he only taught her to be an elegant lady. When she walked into the council chamber of her ministers, those gray-haired nobles eyed her young, round face with suspicion. Meanwhile, Frederick the Great of Prussia had already crossed the border to seize Silesia, the empire's richest province. He wrote mockingly that this young lady ought to play with dolls, not govern a state. Maria Theresa was filled with panic and anger like never before. She once hid behind the curtains of her bedchamber and wept softly. But when she dried her tears and stood again, the stubbornness of the Habsburgs awoke in her eyes. She had no army, no money, and no one believed she would survive the winter. So she made a stunning decision. Holding her infant firstborn son, she mounted a horse and rode to rebellious Hungary to seek support. Beneath the weight of the crown of Saint Stephen, she showed the Hungarian nobles the fragility of a mother and the resolve of a monarch. In the Hungarian Diet, Maria Theresa spoke to the nobles through tears, saying she had been abandoned by all, and they were all she had left. In that moment, these tough men who had long resisted Vienna's rule were deeply moved, shouting that they would die for their queen. It was the first time she realized that as a woman, her vulnerability, when used wisely, could be a sharper weapon than cannons. The 8 years of the War of the Austrian Succession became her coming of age. She was pregnant, giving birth, or breastfeeding almost every year, yet at the same time directing her generals, arranging formations, and raising war funds. She was often woken at midnight by a baby's cry, tending to small matters before reading frontline dispatches by faint candlelight. She did not love war, but she hated betrayal, especially by the Prussian king who had once promised to protect her, only to strike first. In this game of power, she quickly transformed from a naive bride into a ruthless stateswoman. She learned to bargain with the church, build a modern government, and even use her personal charm to raise every last gold coin. In the end, though she could not reclaim Silesia, she preserved the body of the empire and made all of Europe remember the name Maria Theresa. As a mother, Maria Theresa's love was vast, yet also deeply heavy. She gave birth to 16 children, and the nursery in Schönbrunn Palace was filled with constant noise, the warmest haven in her life. She checked her children's lessons personally, even caring about what they ate each day and whether they behaved properly. But whenever she left the nursery and pushed open the door to her study, she became the head of the Habsburg house once more. To her, these children were not only flesh and blood, but also political pawns to secure the empire's long-term stability. She once said she would sacrifice her dearest children for the good of the empire. And so she launched a grand marriage alliance plan, scattering her daughters like seeds into royal courts across Europe. Her youngest daughter, the lively and smiling Marie Antoinette, was sent into the abyss of the Palace of Versailles in France. Before the girl left, Maria Theresa wrote pages of strict rules, demanding that her daughter put Austria's interests above all else. She knew her daughter was unhappy in that foreign land, yet still scolded her harshly in letters for willfulness, insisting she be a perfect queen. This violent pull between maternal love and duty became the most hidden wound of her middle years. The greatest love of Maria Theresa's life was her husband, Francis Stephen. Though their marriage began politically, they shared a genuine love rare in royalty. Francis was not skilled in politics, he preferred natural science and business, and Maria gave him the utmost respect and space. Yet he died suddenly, leaving her behind. From that day onward, the empress who had once loved fine clothes and jewels ordered all decorations removed from her chambers, replacing them with grey wallpaper. She cut her hair short, gave away all her jewelry, and wore black mourning clothes until the day she died. She marked every hour, every minute, every second of her husband's death on her calendar. The height of power was already bitterly cold, and without Francis, Maria seemed to lose all sense of color in the world. In her later years, she fell into endless political quarrels with her eldest son Joseph II, who was radical while she was conservative. Sitting behind her black lacquered desk piled with papers, watching her son rush to undo her life's work, she felt the desolation of being abandoned by her time. She still ruled the nation with strict discipline, yet every night whispered to her husband's portrait the weariness she could tell no one else. When Maria Theresa died, her last words were simple: she wished only to meet her Francis soon. She left behind a completely renewed Austria and a legend of a female ruler. Returning to our first question, was she a worthy mother, or a successful empress? Perhaps the two were never truly separate. She mended the broken empire with the resilience of a mother, and disciplined her own family with the iron hand of an empress. Her children, scattered across Europe, became kings, sacrifices, or left eternal regret in old photographs. In the imperial crypt in Vienna, she lies buried with her husband Francis, their magnificent sarcophagus carved with the joy of their reunion. Tonight's story is coming to an end. You see, even a woman as powerful as Maria Theresa had countless nights when she wanted to give up. Yet she chose to stand firm, for those she had to protect, and for the name that had to endure. Now you may let go of all burdens and find your own peace. The woods of Vienna have fallen asleep, and the lights of Schönbrunn Palace have faded. Good night, and may your dreams be gentle.